Credit card interest is one of the biggest wealth killers, and we don't talk a lot about it. I was paying over $650 a month for 2 credit cards that I had, and the balances were barely moving. And here is what I did to stop that bleeding. In July 2024, I took $19,000, $800 personal loan, not to buy a house, not to go on vacation, or to buy anything special. But because I had 2 credit cards that were very high interest and they were not going anywhere. I have been paying this loan off slowly, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking to you about the steps that I took or that I'm taking to get rid of that high interest and to start seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. So let's get started. So the backstory is that I had 2 credit cards that were maxed out, like almost $20,000. And so in July of 2024, I was just sick and tired of looking and paying those credit cards because, as I say, those credit cards had very, very high interest at 29.9. And if you see me looking down, I'm looking at my notes because I just want to make sure that I give you the right numbers. So these 2 credit cards, one of them, the balance was $9,640. So $9,640 with a minimum payment of around $330. The other balance was just over $10,290 and with a minimum of around $360. So combined, those 2 credit cards, I was paying over $650 a month between the 2 of them. And you know what was happening to that money? All that money, most of it, because they were almost maxed out, all that money was going to the interest. If it was moving my payments, it was just moving it by very, very little, like maybe like $50, $60. Even though sometimes I was paying extra on it, it wasn't even still moving it much because of the high interest, and also those cards were maxed out. I would look at those statements and I was just getting sick and tired of it. And at that time in 2024, I didn't have a job. At that time, we only had one income. We're still a one income household, but I was looking at those statements and I was just like, this interest was so much. I had no way. I didn't know what the way out was. And the worst thing about the credit cards is that the fact that you can keep paying, it's not like a personal loan or a fixed loan that you have where you know, like, or a car payment where you know at the end of 5 years, this is done. With the credit cards, you just keep paying and paying and paying. There is no end of there is no end to it. And that was what was frustrating me a lot. And I was trying to do every single thing that I could to make this payment. But on top of my other bills, the mortgage, all the other bills you can think of, these 2 credit cards were just eating up our money. And as I said, almost all this $650, it was just going to the interest, and the balance was always almost the same. The worst part was that when I looked at the statement, it was so sickening because when I looked at the statement, it told me that if I continue paying the minimum, it will take me 25 years to pay these credit cards off. And I would end up paying, this is just for one, $32,000, $300 Let that sink in. 32,301. So that is $32,000. So if you combine the 2 credit cards, so that $64,000 in credit cards, and it would take me 25 years. So the big decision came when I was just like, I have to do every single thing that I need to do to get rid of this debt. I started looking for options. The first thing that I did, because you hear people say, call your credit companies, they're going to lower your interest rates and everything. As I say, these credit cards had 29.99%. So I called the credit card companies and they would tell me no. I called them different times. I called different days just because to see, hey, maybe I can find somebody who is going to be nice. I would call at different times, because sometimes you hear people saying, call on a Friday because you're tired. These workers are tired. They're ready to go home and they're just going to say yes. I tried that. It didn't work. Tried different times of the day. Tried different days. Nobody. I even asked to talk to the supervisor to just see whether they would help me out. And they would tell me no. And all they could do was refer me to financial hardships department. They would be like, oh, we cannot do that. The interest rates are high. This is, there is no way we can cut your interest rates. And I even would tell them, you know what? I could move my cards to different card companies, but they were like, no, we couldn't. But I knew that I didn't want to move these cards because I have done that before, but these two particular cards, I knew that I didn't want to. I was just looking to see whether they would lower my interest rate. So try that, didn't work. And then honestly, this is the time I was like, you know what? I need to put this into a prayer situation. So this is the time I was just like, God, I need your guidance. Because most of the time what we do, we're struggling. I am a believer, but when we are struggling, sometimes we think we can do things by our own power. And this is a time I was like, God, I need you to show me what I need to do. And literally went on my knees and cried to him. And I said, I need a solution. We got into this particular situation because of something that we couldn't avoid. And one of them actually, I think we had a roof of over one of our rental properties we needed to fix, and we didn't have the cash in our business account, so we used that credit card. So that's how we accumulated that one of the cards. So what did I do? After the prayer, like literally, I saw this credit union. I had seen it. I was at the library. I saw this credit union's name at the library, and it was saying that they had an event at the library. And I was like, oh, okay. I chose to go to that to that event that they had at the library. And I almost didn't go, but I felt in my heart, you know what, I'm going to go, because at that time, actually, I was just finishing up my certification for my financial coaching. So I was like, you know what, let me just go see what they do in the libraries when they have an event. So I just went, listened to what they were saying. And honestly, I thought this credit union only served the military because their name is something to do with the military. But when I listened and talked to somebody after the event, they said, oh no, we're not just a military credit union, we help everybody. And that's the time I was like, whoa. Talked to this lady, turns out like she was a supervisor for that credit union. And she's like, oh yeah, come over. This was like, I think on a Friday, come over and let's, see, bring your pay stubs, she told me like all the things that I needed to bring. And she's like, oh, I said, I don't bank with you guys. And she said, you don't have to, we're just gonna open an account, a savings account. You just need a $25 for that account to be able to be a member. And then we can see whether you can qualify for a loan. I was like, yay. Biggest decision that I ever made. And I just so grateful to God, because I was like, oh my goodness, thank you, God, because you do all our steps. So after the application, they approved us, my husband and I, for $19,800. So I opened an account, and this was the date. If you can see here, this was the date, and this is the loan that they put. We got approved for $19,800, and that's all they could give us. I tried to negotiate, I tried to counter offer, but that was all that they could give us. So they gave us $19,800 at 13.49% interest, and as opposed to 29. So that was like less, like almost half of what I was paying. So the best thing is that they sent these credit cards, they sent the money direct to the credit card. What I had to do was I gave them the last bill. She asked for the last bill for each credit card. And so they sent the money directly to to the credit card. So that for me, I didn't care. I didn't want the money. But they say that's their policy. If it's a consolidation loan, that's what they were going to do. And I was okay with that because I wasn't looking for the money so that I can use it. I was looking for that money so that it can be able to go to those credit cards. And I was fine with that. And it was so exciting to just see those when refreshed my accounts a couple days after to just see those zeros. So after that approval, I remember feeling like it's like almost jumping for joy, but it was just this deep relief, like, whoa, this is so good because now I knew exactly where my money was going to be going. I knew this money was going to be going not just to the interest, but I'm going to be paying down. And because when they approved us, the loan was for, as I said, was $19,800. It was 5 years, and the percentage was 13.4, and the interest over the life of the loan was going to be $7,678. And the total amount I would have to pay for the total of loan was $27,478.78. To me, that $27,000, even though I knew that I wasn't going to pay that, it was much better because it was $27,000 for over 5 years, better than the $64,000 that I was going to pay over 25 years. 27 versus $64,000 that I was going to pay in interest. To me, that was doable. And I was like, wow, this is good. But then I made a decision. I was like, there is no way that I'm going to pay this $7,000. When I looked at that $7,000, it looked better than what I was paying in interest, but still I knew because I know what to do, but I knew that I did not want to pay these $7,000. And that's the time my husband and I decided, we're like, okay, we've been given a chance here. We have to make every single thing that we can to make sure that we are not going to be paying this loan for 5 years. And we're also going to cut that interest, that $7,000 interest, ruthlessly as much as we could. So what did we do? I started paying this account ahead of time. First of all, I scheduled it. So this is the bill right here. The payment was $557, so which was much better than the $650 that I was paying. It was due on the 23rd of every month. Started paying that, on time. When I would pay the $457 that was due, I continued asking God for wisdom. I realized still I was paying the principal. You see here, the principal is $257, but the interest was still a little bit high. It was $200. And I was like, I don't want to still keep paying this $200 in interest. I started paying a little bit extra every time I would get the money. The first time we paid for the extra was that January. I paid this $520, and that went into, as you can see here, it went to principal right there. In February, I had $400 extra, also paid principal, and I continued to pay every month on the 21st because that's what I was doing. But then, yes, here also in February, I had $1,000, so that to the principal. Added another $1,600, had here $650. So just continues doing different things there, continued to pay every month. But then I realized I continued to pay on the due date because I had it automatically paying because I have systems where I have my bills on the due date, they're taken out. Then I realized, as I said before, I was asking God for wisdom on how to keep paying these debts off. Then I realized when one time I was like, personal loans interest are calculated every day. And I was like, what if I paid that interest, my due date? What if I don't have to wait for the due date? This, I think I paid on the 16th. When I started paying it sooner than the dates, see here, the interest part was a little bit lower. Fast forward when you do it that sooner, let me show you the breakdown. See, the interest here is only $60, $63 as opposed to here, and the principal is much better. And then you see the next bill, I didn't wait for February 26th. I paid it on February 10th. See, the interest was $45 as opposed, and the principal, look at that, the principal was $412. So that's a strategy that I used. And even like one time I went to pay in the bank, and the supervisor is like, no, make sure, because I was paying like 2 months ahead of time, 2 months or even 3 months. She said the max that I can do, I can pay only 3 months ahead, because otherwise it's gonna default into something. I don't remember what she said, but she said that I could not pay it ahead more than 3 months. I was like, okay. So if you're in the process of paying off your loan or your personal, do not wait for the due date. That's actually another video that I might have to do. And if you want me to do another video about the reason you shouldn't be waiting for your pay period, for the due date, let me know, because as you can see right here, if you don't wait, because $457 is what is usually due. I paid it on the 26th. I didn't have to wait until February 21st. I paid it on February 20th. The next one, I paid it on March 6th. Same thing, if you look at the breakdown, $68. That's the way I started paying. And up to date right now, that account, the balance is $6,263. The due or the maturity date for this loan is July 25th, 2029. We're in July. We're in April right now. I'm sorry. We're in April right now of 2026. So that's July 2024, 2025, 2026. So this is almost 24, 25, 26. So this is even like less than 2 years. And I have paid a total of almost $13,500 that we have paid in less than 2 years. So $13,500. And our goal actually is that by end of this year, I want to get that 6K done. Like literally, my goal is to get it done, because I am determined not to give them that 76, 78. Fine, I will pay them interest, but I'm not gonna pay them $76,000, $7,668. I am not gonna do that. And this is what I want us to do. Like, I'm gonna be updating you every single month and showing you how much is left. And if you want to get to see how much, whether I'm going to be able to do it in a year, so just make sure that you're subscribed. Let me know whether this is helpful, or let me know whether you have any loans that you're paying, and whether you want any strategies, how to pay it quicker, and what I am also doing. So I'm going to do another update next month to just show you guys whether I was able to cut it down a little bit. As I said, right now, actually, I didn't even show you when my next payment is due. April right now, it's April 17th, and I am paid up. If I go to the account details, my next payment is not due until 2025. That's how much ahead I've paid. And I just pay like a month ahead of time. Or this one is 2 months actually ahead of time. And as you can see, the interest that actually I have paid up to date, it's only $356. Yes, that is very important, because the only interest, as you can see, $356.76. So that is why it is very, very important if you're considering putting your high interest credit cards that you're paying, because when you do that, you're saving so much interest. Can you imagine? This is only $356, and that used to be one payment. One payment of the credit card was just the minimum payment like I used to pay. And now this year I have paid enough, and that's the only interest that they have eaten on my card, as opposed to like when I used to pay the 2 credit cards, I was just paying over $650 and very, very minimal was going to my principal to pay those cards. So if you're considering consolidating your cards, this is your sign that you should consider consolidating your loans. So that's it on this video. I hope this was helpful, and I hope, like, you can see if you are overwhelmed with your high interest credit cards, go to your local credit cards, local credit union, see whether you can get a personal loan and see whether you can consolidate, and then just make up your mind that you're not getting back into these credit cards. Because for me, this is it. Like, I am not getting these cards right now. The balances are zero right now. Zero. One more thing. This is one of the cards that I had actually, and I wanted to show you the interest rate. The interest that used to be charged was $233.88, and I would pay $345. But look at the difference and look at what was going to my principal. I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment, and I'll be glad to answer any questions that you have. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video.